Right, welcome back to our continued coverage of Nigeria's 65th Independence Day celebration. And this is the part where we get to segue and talk about Nigeria's journey through nationhood. Since independence in 1960, we've seen moments of unity and division, growth as well as setbacks. But what exactly has shaped our journey as a nation? We'll try to reflect on some of the historical antecedents of Nigeria's journey as a nation, as a people, and where we are right now. And of course, to help me navigate the conversation for this next segment, the tag team has switched and Maimuna Bagudu is now standing in. Not standing in, but of course taking part in this segment of the conversation. Maimuna, happy independence.
Happy independence, Abdul. Good morning, Nigerians.
It does look like you have a much more positive, energy towards the celebrations.
I mean, Nigeria is my country. I'm positive that, one day everything is going to be okay. I mean, my hopes are really high. I believe so much in this country, and I have faith that, even as Nigerians celebrate, 65. Yes, we're not where we should be, but hopefully, as the year goes by, we hope for the best.
You see, that's the most important part, to keep hope alive.
Absolutely.
Right? All right, sticking around to help us navigate some of the issues we'll be unpacking in a couple of minutes is still Comrade Ahmed Sajoh, who is nodding his head in disapproval when I say journey through nationhood. You still have your own feelings about that word, but obviously we see ourselves as a nation. But let's take a look at the histrionics of Nigeria's journey, right? We did play some clips there identifying some of the struggles for independence, some of the struggles after independence. What in your view is at the heart of the Nigerian story?
Well, at the heart of the Nigerian story is our diversity. Our diversity is supposed to be our core asset. When you have a nation or a country that is diverse in very many ways, we're diverse in terms of endowment of government, including our environment, our climate, our topography, the soil system. We have diversity, and then we have diversity of people with different languages, different cultures, different understanding of issues. When this diversity makes it possible for us, for example, to make meaning out of anything as a people. Whatever you put on table, there may be a section of this country that sees something positive in it. And all we needed to do was to join them in seeing what is positive in what we complain about day in, day out. And then, you can plant anything in this country, from rice to wheat to sorghum. You can plant yams, beans, cocoyams if they are root crops. You can plant potatoes. You can plant fruits, from mangoes to apples in this country. We can plant anything. So our diversity is our core asset. If you want to see a mountainous region, you can get the best in Nigeria. If you want to see a coastal shoreline and you want to see the mangrove swamp, you don't have to go to any other country to learn about mangrove swamp. You have it in Nigeria. If you want to see a desert, you see it in Nigeria. And if you want to swim, we have so many rivers for you to swim in Nigeria. So our diversity is one of our core assets, and unfortunately, our management of our diversity has been one of our challenges. We emphasize on the negatives. We emphasize on the misunderstandings. If you look at it, since our return to democratic rule, all we're talking about is that appointments are skewed, are lopsided, and the rest, because we are weaponizing our diversity to make it look like it's a problem for us. But our diversity is an asset, right, if we manage it very well.
There's some people, comrade, who say two different Nigerians existed post-independence. The one that existed between 1960 and 1966, before the first bloody military coup that took out, a significant portion of the leadership. And then the Nigeria that existed post-Civil War. is the one that we're living in right now, one where the fault lines are too obvious to ignore. Do you think that is a fair encapsulation of the dividing line? I think
the expansion of the fault lines, if we must be honest, happened in 1966. The coup of 1966 and the counter coup of the same year were the actual, drivers of the expansion of our fault lines. If you notice that the coup of 1966, was highly selective in the manner that leaders were eliminated. It brought to the fore in a very screaming way that these are our diversities. And then it led to the counter coup, which in itself also was a further expansion of our fault lines. And that the expansion of those fault lines led us to the crisis that led to the Civil War. Now, the Civil War, the end of the Civil War would have marked an end of an era of bickerings over our fault lines if we had managed that again very well. Because post-Civil War, the concern was no longer our dividing fault lines. The concern was our the economic trajectory the nation was moving towards. How to reabsorb people who suffered untold hardships as a result of the Civil War. How to reintegrate the country again and make it one country. We had that task, but we mismanaged it. And when, subsequent military governments did not help us in managing our diversity correctly, but to some extent, yes, the military rule did manage our diversity. It was under the military government that a northerner could be a military governor in a southern state, and the people accepted him. A southerner was...
mostly because they don't have a choice, right?
Exactly. But whether they had no choice or they had a choice, but it was intended to create an understanding within the polity that for us to know that we are one people. Again, we did not manage it very well. What were the gains of those experiments? Why will a Kalu Iguama be my governor? And after being my governor, what have I learned from him and from the entire people of Arochukwu? If we begin to converse around that as at that time to say, look, we are one. We have more in common than we have differently. Seeing that this man came here and he ran our state and we had no complaints. So we would have used that to build. But then when politics came, at first, we were just looking at it as if it was something that we could wish away. Then politicians realized that they could weaponize our diversity for political gains. And since then, till today, we are weaponizing our diversity for political gains. And I still insist, our diversity is our core asset. We could build a great nation out of our diversity. But a nation, like I said earlier, and I'm saying it again, a nation is not a geographical expression. A nation is a collection of people with shared values. If we could, as a country, develop some shared values, and I volunteer those shared values, we need to imbibe the values of equity, we need to imbibe the values of fairness, we need to imbibe the values of justice and inclusion. If we have those values, honestly, our diversity will mean nothing. Our fault lines will mean nothing. Let me tell you, when you board a plane, you do not ask for the ethnicity or the religion of the pilot. You expect to be flown safely and to land safely. That's all you are expecting. When you enter a vehicle, you don't ask for the ethnicity or the religion of the driver. When you go to the hospital and they're taking you to the hospital, except for the fact that, yes, for purposes of, fairness again, certain aspects of women's health should be handled by women who understand their health, and certain aspects of, but that aside, you do not ask for the ethnicity, religion, or gender of the doctor that is going to treat you. You do. So when you take your child to school, you don't ask for the ethnicity or religion of the teacher that's going to teach that child. You're expecting the child to get the best education. That's all you are asking for. So if we could just use that in determining the ultimate leadership, I don't care where my leader comes from, if he's going to treat me fairly, if he's going to treat me justly, if he's going to treat me equally with the next person, I will not ask where he comes from. But we don't expect that. We expect that when you have a leader from a particular ethnic group, his people will first begin to enjoy the dividends before it reaches you. You go to in Abuja here, if you like, test it. Go to any minister's office. If you go to the waiting room, the likelihood is that 95% of the people in the waiting room there are people from either his state or his ethnic group. Where did we get to that level? And how do you build a nation like that?
Okay. All right. Let's turn to politics and governance. Yeah, I mean, Nigeria has moved from, the colonial rule to independence, then through decades of, the military regimes, and eventually to democracy. And, that's a very long and complex journey. So how would you rate the maturity of, Nigerians' democracy at 65 years?
Honest?
Yes.
Honest?
Honestly, yes.
Honestly? Poor. Because, democracy, a democratic rule, is not simply about elections. In Nigeria, we're equating democracy with elections. That the fact that you can elect your leaders means you are democratic. It doesn't mean. Democracy is much more than electing leaders. Democracy is like a bridge. I give you an example. You know what a bridge is?
Absolutely.
Democracy is like a bridge. A very good bridge has guardrails on this side, guardrails on this side, so you don't skid off the bridge and fall in. Democracy has its own guardrails. And those guardrails, if they don't exist, then the democracy itself is hollow. What are some of these guardrails? One of them, very key, important democratic guardrail, is the political party. I was discussing with a top politician, a few days ago, and I was asking him, sir, do we really have political parties in Nigeria? Because these are being molded in the form of an enterprise. Individuals own the political parties. Leadership of political parties are decided. Recently, there were congresses in one of the political parties. And then they brought the results to government house, and the governor sat down and from ward level to state level, no, I don't like this man, remove his name, put so person instead, remove. A democracy in which the people, the owner, how many of us who belong to political parties even make contributions to the political party? You only make contributions if you want something from the political party and they say you should come for screening, then you need a receipt. I remember I was part of a screening panel at one point in time, and one of the people we were going to screen had to go to the party secretariat and collect receipts for all the years he has not made contributions to the party to come and show us that he has been making contributions. Who owns the parties? The parties are owned by individuals. Is that democracy?
Right.
No. Now, take, for example, a lot of us take certain things for granted. You young people, if I ask you now, do you know why the Senate is red, the House of Reps is green? Historically, how did we come to that? Because we are claiming that we have imbibed the American style. Is the American Senate red? Is the House of Reps green? No. Where did we get the green and red from? From Britain. How did we get the red and green? The House of Lords in Britain has a red chamber because it is the Privy Council, is the highest court. So if they declare that there's a judgment of life and death on somebody, the last place you could go for appeal is the Privy Council, the Senate, the House of Lords, and that their decision is final. So because they have powers over life and death, they sit in a red chamber, blood. The House of Reps, at the initial stage, the ordinary people were not allowed to have representatives to discuss for them at governance level. There was no chamber for them. So when ordinary people elect their representatives to go and talk about governance, they have to stand on a green lawn somewhere to discuss. That's how the green color came about. So the whole democracy thing, it's about giving people the opportunity. But here we are in Nigeria. The political parties are controlled by individuals. Candidates are selected by parties according to the whims and caprices of individuals. These candidates come and become elected people. They never go back to talk to their constituents except if they are going for re-election or they are going for a sham empowerment that means very little in the real sense of it. So what is it that we're doing that guards our democracy? What is democratic about our democracy? And that's where we need to do. We need to be democratic at all levels. That's a democracy. We need to be democratic even at the National Assembly level. Do you think they are democratic in the manner they run the system? Sometimes can't we see two different systems operating in the same chamber? One rule for one purpose and then another rule for a different purpose. Democracy means that the people have the final say. Right. How much of a final say do you have in Nigeria democratic system? Right. I mean, you are part of the people.
It's an analysis that always leaves you asking more questions than getting some sort of answers. But Comrade, thank you very much for the insight on this one. I appreciate the value addition, especially in trying to understand the history behind what has been plaguing one of the most promising, if not the most promising country on the African continent. We're going to have to anchor the conversation here for now. Thank you so much for sticking around this morning. I appreciate you very much for that.
Thank you very much.